Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. Where is Philip? 13 days with no trace. A mother from Lymington makes a desperate appeal.
Philip, darling, we love and miss you. And please make contact with somebody just to say you're okay.
Military might, the soldiers being trained to defend the region if it comes under attack from floodwaters.
Shell-shocked why more rare sea creatures used to tropical climes could be washing up on the south coast.
And the coldest November night in 6 years, how the south shivered as temperatures tumbled. Good evening. He's been missing for almost 2 weeks and not made any contact with friends or family. Tonight, a mother is making an emotional appeal for her son to get in touch.
With this week's freezing temperatures, concern is growing for Philip McCormack from Lymington. The 29-year-old is a vulnerable adult and hasn't been seen for 13 days. Philip's mother told our reporter Richard Slee she can't understand where he could be.
Friends and family of Philip McCormack are putting up posters throughout the New Forest. The 29-year-old, who's described as being vulnerable, has been missing for nearly 2 weeks.
Well, he's very quiet.
His mother told me she became alarmed when he didn't come home one night and the family had no idea where he'd gone the day before.
When he wasn't home in the morning, I phoned round his friends and family, and consequently I thought, well, I'll wait till the afternoon so he might still come in. When he wasn't here, I then reported him as a missing person.
Philip was last seen here at his home in Lymington the Thursday before last, and concern is growing for his welfare because last night was the coldest night of the year.
He has had no access to money and he left with only the clothes that were on his back. I have no other indications of anybody that has seen him in that time, and it's out of character for him to disappear in this way.
If he's listening to you now, what should he do?
Well, I would encourage Philip to give us a call on the 101 number, let us know he's okay. And actually, Philip, if you don't want to speak to us, if you're unable to feel confident to speak to the police, at least send a text home just so your mum knows you're okay.
And Philip's mother wanted to make her own direct appeal to her son to get in touch.
Philip, darling, we love and miss you. And please make contact with somebody just to say you're okay. Us or the police. I just want to make sure that you're well and safe.
Philip is due to start a new training course on Monday, and so his family hopes he will return in time for that. Richard Slee, ITV News, Lymington.
A driver accused of causing the death of a motorcyclist in Fareham will go on trial in January. Julie Corbyn, who was 55 and from Warsash, died in June last year when her Harley-Davidson bike crashed into a blue Fiat Doblo on the A27 near the Oaston Squire pub. The driver of the car, 62-year-old Elaine Dorey from Gosport, has been charged with causing death by careless driving.
A 13-year-old girl has suffered a head injury during an assault in Southampton. Police were called to Green Park in Millbrook yesterday evening to reports of a disturbance involving up to 40 children. The girl has since been discharged from hospital. A 13-year-old girl from Southampton was arrested on suspicion of causing grievous bodily harm and released on police bail.
Staff at a petrol station in Sussex have been threatened with a meat cleaver during a robbery. 2 men walked into Star Fuels on South Coast Road in Peacehaven on Monday night and demanded cash from the till. They stole £200, around 120 scratch cards and packets of cigarettes. No one was injured, but police say it was a traumatic experience for staff.
Well, despite this week's freezing temperatures, we've enjoyed lovely blue skies, but there is no doubt rain will come this winter, and communities right across the south are preparing for it.
Well, many viewers will have had bad memories of Christmas 2014, when floodwater ruined homes and festivities. Well, this winter, more than 1,000 soldiers are on standby to help if there is flooding.
Yes, a major training exercise has been taking place at Bulford Barracks in Wiltshire, involving troops from the King's Royal Hussars and the 5th Battalion, the Rifles. Duncan Slightholme sends this.
When floodwaters are rising quickly, you need barriers to go up even faster. 3 army battalions are being trained to put them together and help the Environment Agency protect communities threatened by flooding this winter. This barrier has been put up very quickly. In fact, the Environment Agency thinks that when everybody is fully trained, it will take just 8 people around 20 minutes to put out 100 metres. The barriers are a short-term solution, a metal frame covered in plastic sheets enough to hold water back. The government's spending more than £12 million to make available 4 times as many temporary barriers as last winter. There are new pumps too.
So this is when you've had a period of rainfall, extreme rainfall, and the rivers are bursting out of their banks. A temporary barrier is a very simple mechanism to create a line which the water can't get past. So you're trying to keep the water in the river and out of homes. So it's a series of stands and plates that create a barrier at about 45 degrees.
In 2014, it was a month before the military was brought in to help residents when the Somerset levels flooded. Last winter, troops were called into Cumbria. This year, the government says it is committing 1,200 troops to be on 24-hour standby across the country.
Well, I think the last 3 years have seen that you can't tell when the floods are coming or where they're going to come. I think we are a resource, a best effort resource, that can assist the local authorities and the emergency services in an appropriate way. So they do a day job. They keep the community safe day to day. But where they can struggle is when the incident becomes regional or national and it becomes enduring.
You might hope your community never has need for these barriers. But if it does, you might also hope they come quickly. Duncan Slightone, ITV News.
More news. Dorset Police has confirmed it is the latest force to investigate claims of historical abuse in football. The force says it would not be appropriate to give any further details. An inquiry has been launched by the FA into allegations which date back to the 1980s. Hampshire Police also investigating a claim.
4 friends injured when the balcony of their holiday rental flat in Brighton collapsed, threatening legal action against the website they booked it through. The group of guests fell 2 stories on Montpellier Road in July. San Francisco-based Airbnb says it cannot be held liable for the accident or the injuries and has no duty of care. A lawyer for the group is also seeking to contact the owner of the property.
2 teenagers have pleaded guilty to criminal damage after being filmed jumping on a car bonnet, causing significant damage. The 2 boys, who are 14 and 15 and from East Grinstead, appeared at Crawley Youth Court earlier this week. It was filmed outside the Stone Quarry shopping parade in June.
You're watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Coming up, the weather forecast. Just how much longer will this cold snap last? We'll find out. Plus,
from Sussex schoolboy to England manager, we'll get reaction from Gareth Southgate's former PE teacher.
and for more on all of our stories, head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, you can call us on 0808 1010 095 or get in touch via Facebook or Twitter. The A3 in Surrey has been closed after a lorry collided with a pedestrian. It happened at 1:40 this afternoon on the A31 Compton Slip Road near Guildford. The pedestrian, a man in his 50s, died at the scene. The A3 was closed both ways, with the northbound carriageway reopening an hour later. There have been major delays in the area.
Now, when American businessman Steve Blonstein was left a mission by his late aunt in her will, he was determined to carry out her wishes exactly as she would have wanted. And now cancer patients in his native Dorset are benefiting from her generosity.
Well, Steve came over from the States this week to see how a bit of money, well, £250,000 to be exact, and a bit of imagination can help to change the way people cope with the disease. With more, Martin Dowse.
Diane Duffy has to travel from Gosport to the Royal Bournemouth Hospital for regular chemotherapy sessions. The treatment can take hours and there's often waiting time. Now she can spend that in this oasis of calm within the busy hospital complex. Feed the ducks, feel the sun on her face, maybe chat with a stranger.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, really amazing, because it's so relaxing, isn't it? And I love the ducks, feed the ducks, and it's just a nice place to be.
The man chatting with Diane today is no ordinary stranger. He made this oasis happen. Steve Blonstein lives in San Francisco but grew up in Wimborne. He had a beloved English aunt, Betty Hyams, who died recently and left him £250,000 to put to a good cause. This is how he chose to fulfil her wishes.
Yeah, it is a good feeling, and it's great to see my aunt's legacy, because I think she would be exactly the kind of person who'd enjoy a garden like this. You know, she spent time in hospital, so she would have really enjoyed this if she'd been here.
You can imagine a call from the USA and somebody asking and saying, we'd like to give you £250,000. Yeah, Steve has followed through on everything he said he would do, so we think that's incredible.
There's huge healing potential for gardens, and you know, people going through chemotherapy, it's a very difficult time in their lives often, and this just provides that sort of area that people could just come, that's somewhere that's quiet and calm.
Oh, it's vital, because it really adds extra. So the taxpayer pays for the basics, but these are the sort of things that make the real difference to the quality of care. And all year round, it would be a nice place to be.
But Aunt Betty's legacy doesn't end with the Orchard Garden, as it's been named. This is the Betty Bus, a mobile cancer advice and consultation service which will reach out to those people and communities in Dorset for whom hospitals are hard to get to.
When we met Steve, he was very clear on what he wanted, or what she wanted, and the bus was definitely the thing that we thought would keep Betty's memory alive, basically, and on the roads of Dorset. So we think she'd be over the moon with it.
I think she'd be very happy that it was something that was important to us locally in Dorset. Yeah, very proud of what's been done here in her memory. Yeah.
Cancer casts a dark cloud over too many lives, but this one woman's generosity and the dedication of her nephew to see her legacy through have made the outlook here at least a little brighter. Martin Dowse, ITV News.
Well done to Betty and to Steve. Now, it's rapidly establishing a reputation as one of the wonders of the modern world. 3D printing has countless applications, not least in the world of medicine.
Yes, it was thanks to 3D printing that opera singer Paula Anglin from Hove was given 2 new artificial knees, modelled on her own ones. She'd been crippled with arthritis and was forced to stop performing on stage.
And 2 years ago, Daniel Melville from Reading, who was born without a lower arm, was fitted with a bionic hand that was created using a 3D scanner and printer. The technology allowed it to be custom made.
And now, for the first time, help is available for patients across the southeast who have facial injuries, as Jamie Crichton-Smith explains.
They may look like something out of a science fiction film, but this silverware is nothing to do with the silver screen. These are medical implants used to replace damaged bones in the head and face. How these implants are made could revolutionise the treatment of facial injuries.
A lot of injuries are treated with off-the-shelf implants that are bent into place by surgeons. This allows us to give a much more custom result, which will give a much more reliable result to the surgery. So sometimes in surgery it's very difficult for surgeons to bend things perfectly into place. What this will do is it will reconstruct that bony area perfectly and get a much better end result for the patient.
The implants are based on scans of the patient. If a piece of bone on the left-hand side of the face is needed, a mirror image of the right side will be printed, therefore fitting the patient much better than any mass-produced piece. Each one of these implants takes between 8 and 12 hours to be made. It's comprised of a series of layers of titanium on top of each other and melted together using a high-powered laser. And once out of the machine, the implant is sterilised and posted to hospital, where it can be used in surgery.
That has remarkably reduced time of operation. It has reduced post-operative complications for patients because we know once where it should go, then there is no other structures that's likely to be damaged. And it also has increasingly reduced the need for a post-operative CT scan to check the position because we know it is in the right place.
At the moment, the software and implants are in the early stages of testing, but the hope is that in the next year they'll be in use across the UK. James Crichton-Smith, ITV News.
Well, it's not generally known, but when Sam Allardyce stood down as England's football manager, Andrew Pate secretly hoped he was in with a chance. It wasn't to be, though, was it?
Outrageously, they've gone elsewhere. Yes, Gareth Southgate has been confirmed as England's new manager. Growing up in Crawley, he was captain of the Hazelwick School First 11. This afternoon, he signed a 4-year deal to be England boss. His old PE teacher is delighted.
I think it's brilliant for him. He's been very considered about the whole process. He's almost had a sort of national interview, hasn't he? And I think he's managed absolutely every aspect of it very well. When you look back, that's the sort of boy he was. He was considered in everything he did, but really determined as well.
Southampton are at the Emirates Stadium tonight to take on Arsenal in the quarter-finals of the League Cup. Manager Claude Puel is likely to make changes again, as he has throughout the EFL Cup, with Arsenal also likely to bring in a number of youngsters. But the Saints boss says both teams will be doing all they can to get through to the semi-finals.
Selco Builders Warehouse, proud sponsors of ITV Meridian Sports Report.
We keep always the same philosophy. Arsenal, it's the same, and it will be a mix between experienced player and young players, but with the same philosophy, technical players, quality on the pitch, and I see we go to see a very good game of football.
A Chinese brother and sister appear to be on the brink of taking over Reading Football Club. One report says a deal by Dai Yong and Dai Zhu Li to buy the shares of the current Thai owners could be completed within a fortnight. Last year, Mr. Young attempted to buy Hull City, but that deal fell through. Now, some of the South's Olympians and Paralympians have been honoured by Hampshire County Council. Gold medalists like former Reading hockey star Alec Danson and swimmer Mikey Jones from New Milton were among those who attended this special event. The 9 sports stars brought home 12 medals from Rio, and many of them received funding from the council while they were growing up as part of the Hampshire Talented Athlete Scheme.
It's really, really special to come back this evening and share our experiences from Rio, from the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games, because for every one of us here, this is where it began, in the local clubs here, in the local schools here, and of course having the support of Hampshire County Council, and now coming back to celebrate all those amazing memories in Rio is very, very special.
I think Hampshire would have been 37th in the world, with beating countries like Finland and Portugal and Austria, I think. And Hampshire's only 1 million, and those countries have maybe got 10 or 12 million population.
I call it medal magic when I go into schools. You feed back in the sense that you can take in that medal and children believe that they can suddenly do something. It's about breaking down barriers. It's about them not seeing my chair, it's about them seeing my medal. So you sort of cover the disability side of it, but you also cover them believing in something. When you go into mainstream disability schools, it's all about getting them to believe that they can achieve something and that they're not restricted by something.
The colleges of Oxford will come to a standstill on Thursday next week, with hundreds of students heading to Twickenham for the annual Varsity Showdown with Cambridge. Oxford's build-up to this year's match included a defeat against a team from Premiership club Worcester. Although they went down 39-10 in this bruising encounter, the Dark Blues have won the last 6 meetings with their arch-rivals Cambridge at Twickenham. And they told us they're looking forward to their crunch match.
It's everything, it's why we're here, to be honest. And it's not about the result at Varsity, it's about how we function as a group leading up to the Varsity, and I think that's what's so important to us. I suppose most people at the moment are making them favourites, and rightly so, I'd suggest, with their performances over the last couple of weeks and the fact that we haven't clicked. You know, we'll see what happens in December, hopefully, and if we click in December, that's a fixture that counts, but I think it's also coming together as a group of lads that we work pretty hard on.
It is, you know, it has a different. There's a different atmosphere there. Of course, I think it brings out the best in the lads and brings out the best in you as a rugby player. That adrenaline and that pressure. I think, you know, the guys who play usually thrive under it.
Good luck to the Dark Blues then, and the Red and Whites tonight.
And talking about that, Pacey, yes, Saints at the Arsenal in the League Cup, Are you going to outgun the Gunners?
I think it's going to go all the way to penalties, and then big Fraser Foster is going to win the day for the Saints.
You're that confident, are you?
I'm sort of that confident.
Yes.
Sort of.
Just like your horse racing tips.
Yeah, move on.
Thank you, we will. Thank you, Andy. Thank you.
Now, with increasing evidence of global warming, we are becoming more accustomed to visits from unusual creatures normally living in somewhat warmer climes.
Well, back in September, this red-footed booby bird, which lives in the Caribbean, was found washed up on the Sussex coast. Fortunately, it was rescued in the nick of time, and after being nursed back to health, it was flown back home on a plane.
More recently, a rare breed of sea turtle, usually found in warm tropical waters, was discovered on a beach on the west coast. It's being cared for by marine experts.
In a moment, we'll be talking to Kerry Duckhouse, who's curator of Sea Life Brighton, about the effects of climate change locally. But first, here's Ian Lang with the story of the adventurous turtle.
Just settling in, one lucky female turtle, exhausted and starving, but now on the mend. It's a remarkable tale of survival involving an estimated 15,000-mile swim around the world's oceans, lost and alone.
She's come off the coast of southwest Africa around Gabon and been carried in, it's a clockwise direction that the Atlantic Gaia moves in. So she's been carried across towards the States, up past the coast of America, and then across into the Gulf Stream and landed in the North Sea. So it's a really, really long journey, and of course she's ended up in water at about 8 degrees centigrade here, which is much, much lower than she really ideally should be in.
Now, some people might be wondering why a turtle that's used to wide open oceans should be in a relatively confined space. Well, that's because this is turtle intensive care. She's still in a critical condition, and this is the very best place she can be.
When she was washed up, she was severely hypothermic, so she was really, really cold, well outside of her kind of comfortable conditions. Now, what turtles can experience if you try and heat them up too quickly is temperature shock, which can kill very, very quickly. So we're having to warm her up really slowly over a period of about a week. So just a couple of degrees a day.
She's what's known as an olive Ridley turtle, and this is the first ever sighting of this species in UK waters since records began way back in the 18th century.
Obviously on the marine animal rescue side it was pretty unbelievable that she landed in exactly the right place, and I have to admit I got to bed and I was thinking to myself that I was dreaming.
The hope is that once recovered she can be taken and released back into her native waters. That would be a happy ending to a remarkable turtle adventure story. Ian Lang, ITV News.
Turtle intensive care. Who would have thought there's such a thing?
Indeed, and earlier I spoke to Kerry Duckhouse from the Brighton Sea Life Centre, and I asked her if they have those kind of facilities there.
Well, we don't have a specific facility at Sea Life Brighton to look after rehabilitated turtles, but any aquarium in the UK is able to set up should we be called on.
Now, we had the case of the red-footed booby bird found on the Sussex coast, but tell me, are you caring for other unusual guests?
We've got quite a lot of resident animals down here at Sea Life, including a couple of turtles. We've got Lulu and Gulliver that were actually brought into the UK in the 1950s, so they can never be released back out into the wild because they wouldn't know how to cope. But they're doing pretty well at the ripe old age of 77, and people do love to come and see them.
Why are we getting more and more reports of sea creatures being washed up thousands of miles from where they should be? Is it all down to global warming?
Global warming could actually be having an effect. The sea temperatures are rising, and that means current temperatures are also different, so animals will wander a little bit further. In the case of turtles, they'll go a little bit further following the jellyfish, which we know in UK waters we're getting more jellyfish than normal, but then they suddenly find themselves a little bit colder, they can't get back to where they should be in time, and they get themselves into trouble.
Presumably, as in the case of the sea turtle we saw earlier, being carried thousands of miles off course can have a serious effect on the creature concerned.
It really can. They think they're doing well, they're in the Gulf Stream, they've got a beautiful temperature around them, lots of food, and then suddenly they're in much colder waters than they can cope with. At 10 degrees, a turtle's body will just start seizing up and it can't deal with it anymore, and they just start to shut down.
And finally, there was also the case of the man who claimed to have found the remains of a mermaid washed up on a beach at Great Yarmouth last month. Do you believe that, or is that stretching global warming a bit too far?
Well, I think we all know that mermaids aren't necessarily known for their warm clothing, so who knows, maybe global warming could even affect the mermaids out there.
Well, if you happen to get one, let me know. Kerry Duckhouse, thanks very much for talking to us. Get back in the warm.
Will do, thank you.
Talking of warmth, temperatures fell to the lowest of the year so far last night. Many of you have been letting us know what your thermometer readings where you are. Kimberly Puddick in Cosham at Portsmouth said it was -2 there this morning.
Sheila Howell in Worthing recorded a temperature of -4.
Alan Wilde said it was -7 in Andover this morning.
But Graham Porter in Westbourne in West Sussex pipped everyone with -11.
Wow.
So can we beat that? Well, Helen Plint is with us now. So Helen, some cold temperatures there.
It was very cold, a bit chilly, wasn't it, last night? And I'm about to knock all of those out of the park because we have an overnight low last night of -9 degrees in Benson in Oxfordshire. Then we've got -8.9 and -8.1 degrees. And those were pretty much across Oxfordshire, Berkshire and Hampshire last night. So pretty much wherever you were in the south, it was cold. And it was colder last night than pretty much the whole of last winter.
So Graham Porter, who said -11, maybe a dodgy thermometer, possibly.
Steady.
I wouldn't go that far, but these are the Met Office, of course, official readings, which we have to live by. But of course, the problem is, can you see the cold in pictures? Not
yes,
so much, but we can, because have a look at these. So everyone's been getting out their cameras. It's been absolutely beautiful what we've been getting through. This one's from Tony Bowyer in Hungerford. And then I've had to include this one because it's just madness. It's bonkers, though. Who was out there? Fair play at that hour of this morning. This was Michael in Hartley Whitney in Berkshire. And then last but not least, just a reminder of how stunning the skies have been, though. They've obviously been clear and beautifully crystal and lots of sunshine around despite the cold.
Cold, cold, cold tonight?
It stays cold, but not quite as chilly as it was last night.
How cold is it going to be? Let's find out. Here's your full forecast now with Helen Plint.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
So feeling much more like the depths of winter than the closing stages of November and therefore autumn at the moment. And it stays very crisp and cold for the next 24 hours. We also lose those beautifully clear, cloudless skies from overhead as more in the way of cloud rolls in throughout the day tomorrow. But at least for the meantime, it will stay dry. All of this thanks to high pressure, which is firmly entrenched across the southern swathe, as you can see, of the British Isles. So this does at least keep everything settled well into the start of next week. So not much in the way of wet weather to contend with. But once again, overnight tonight, well, you can see that vast swathe of blue once again representing a fair bit of frost by first thing tomorrow morning. So we'll certainly need to get the scrapers out. It'll be crunchy and crispy underfoot first thing. But that said, there will be more in the way of cloud as that works into northern areas overnight tonight. Here you can see temperatures just about staying above freezing for some of us, but of course travel to those more prone cold spots and they'll be well below what those temperatures suggest. So you can see for Southampton and Salisbury -2, -3 degrees, and that is in town. All of this leads to, once again, a fairly bracing start first thing tomorrow morning. There will be a fair bit of brightness around throughout the day, though, even some sunny spells, especially into the morning, and it will stay fairly quiet. More in the way of cloud into the afternoon as well. Does at least help to keep those temperatures up a little furthest north. So a quick look at the times of high water over the next 24 hours. And as you can see, well, for Poole, it's going to be high tide at 26 minutes past 9 tonight, and again, just after 9:30 tomorrow morning. And from there on in, well, plenty of cloud for Friday and Saturday, but lots of sunshine to round off the weekend.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
In just a moment, we've got the ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Ranveer Singh.
Sangeeta's got Alec News. Do join her if you possibly
Looking
can.
forward to it.
But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much indeed for watching. As we always say, stay warm, take care, join us soon.
See you later. Bye.